Welcome to Inheriting the Future. I'm Nate Kirk.
And I'm David Wall. We're two kids from Gaylord, Michigan, who grew up watching incredible people quietly build something worth inheriting.
Before we head off in different directions, we decided to sit down with those people and ask them everything we wish we'd assume.
Because we believe the greatest gift one generation can give the next isn't money or property, it's wisdom.
And we're here to make sure it doesn't get lost. So our guest today is someone whose name you may not see on a billboard or hear at a rally, but whose fingerprints are on almost everything that makes Otsego County work.
So James Camiller is a certified public accountant and the founder of James Camiller CPA LLC, with offices in Gaylord and Lewiston. But his resume goes well beyond tax season, as he has served on the Otsego County Foundation Board of Directors, including as treasurer, where he helped grow the foundation's assets from $4 million to over 14. He has served as Rotary Club treasurer and currently serves on the Otsego County Road Commission Board of Directors.
Over more than 2 decades as a resident of Otsego County, he has steered this community through a global pandemic or tornado and an ice storm, all while still showing up in the school pickup line every single day.
And in 2023, the community recognized him with the Kevin Reynolds Achievement Award, which, as you'll find out, that's a pretty big deal. Famously, he found out while waiting to pick up his kids, which tells you everything you need to know about this man.
James, welcome to Inheriting the Future.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning, James. You went to Detroit Catholic Central and obviously grew up in the Detroit area, huge metropolitan area. At the time, did you ever picture yourself ending up in such a small town in northern Michigan? How did Gaylord become home?
Yeah. So not at all. So typical suburbia upbringing, middle-class family, went to a private high school. Where everything kind of changed for me was when it came time to pick college. I graduated like top 15% of my class, which enabled me to go to pretty much any Michigan school that I had wanted. But I chose a small school. I went to Adrian College, a school that was smaller than my high school was. Why did I choose to go there? That's really hard to say. I think it was more a rebellious type of thing. I had a brother who was at Michigan State at the time and just wanted to do something different and kind of carve my own path. And so I showed up on a campus of 1,000 students without knowing a soul, and tough for the first couple months. But once I found my place there, everything kind of just fell into place, and absolutely loved the experience of being in a small school, in a small community, and being part of a community. So ended up graduating first in my class from Adrian. And during my time there, was very involved. President of my fraternity. I was involved in the Interfraternity Council. I was in student government, senior class president. Pretty much did everything, never said no. And so all those experiences just made me fall in love with the whole concept of a small community. So upon graduation, graduated summa cum laude, 3.99 GPA, number one in the class. And I could have gone to work pretty much anywhere for a large CPA firm. Thought about going down to Nashville, Tennessee, decided not to, and ended up taking a job with a regional CPA firm who happened to have an office in Gaylord, Michigan at that time. So that was how I ended up coming up to Gaylord. I often like to joke that I filled up my car with gas in Detroit, went north, and ran out of gas in Gaylord, 250 miles away, and that was where I got off the highway. But I came up here for that job with the regional CPA firm, similar to moving to college without knowing a soul in Gaylord.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you built your own firm here in northern Michigan, as opposed to going as far as Nashville. It isn't a franchise or a satellite of some big city operation. It's yours, and it's rooted here. What does it mean to you to run a local business in a place like Gaylord?
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of responsibility though as well when you have people who are on payroll and whose livelihood depends upon the continued existence of your business. A few years ago, I had a handful of employees. At this point, I'm down to just one. Having employees is definitely the hardest part of operating a business, in my opinion. It's a lot of pressure. At this point, I'm down to one employee, which I find works great at this point in my life, where, I just get to do what I want to do and how I want to do it and not have to always be thinking about how it affects the other employees.
So a lot of people think of accounting as manipulating numbers on a page, and ironically, you've stated on numerous occasions that you can't do math. But all jokes aside, the work you do seems to go far deeper than that. You're a trusted resource for individuals, families, and nonprofits navigating some of the most important financial decisions of their lives. How do you think about what you actually do for people?
Yeah, that is funny. And it's also true. The highest math class I ever had in my life was pre-calculus, and that was in high school. And then I took it again in college because calculus just sounded way too hard. So I never had a math upbringing. Accounting is a lot more of problem solving and a puzzle than it is math. So most of what accounting and tax work is memorizing laws and then applying those laws to numbers in a puzzle-like way. So you're solving a puzzle, you're solving problems that involve numbers. So it's not math-based really at all. But yeah, so it's a nice thing to be able to be that trusted advisor. And that's really what the CPA profession sells itself as, is that we are people's trusted advisors. We get calls, or I get calls about every topic under the sun, not just accounting and tax related. People think that we can help them with, any financial facet. And a lot of times we will refer stuff off to the lawyers or the financial advisors. But a lot of times my standard answer is, off the record, if it were me, this is what I would do, but I cannot give you that professional advice because I'm not a lawyer or a financial advisor. But I get calls about absolutely every topic under the sun when it comes to finances. Really are that trusted advisor for a lot of people, kind of the quarterback of the financial team.
Yeah, I'm sort of switching topics when asking this question, but let's talk about the Otsego Community Foundation. You joined that board in 2017, and when you left last year, the foundation had grown from $4 million in assets and 60 managed funds to over 14 million across 105 funds. What was that process like? And looking back, what part of it stands out the most in your memory?
Yeah, being a part of the OCF, the Otsego County Community Foundation, is probably one of the highlights of my professional life. Dana Bensinger, the executive director, is one of those all-star people in this community. I highly, highly respect her. So when she approached me about joining the board to fill a vacancy, it was something I definitely wanted to learn more about and hear more about. After meeting with her, I jumped on the board, was immediately instilled as the treasurer. That's something that CPAs often get, is whenever we join a board, we're immediately tagged as the treasurer. So I was on the board it was about 10, 11 years total. I was term limited just this last year, so I had to get off. But during that time, significant growth. I wish I could say that growth was attributable to me and my financial strategies and financial management assistance, but that would not really be true. I was just a small part of that team. The growth of the OCF in the last 10, 12 years is really attributable to the community in which we live, the generosity of the people here, and the management that we have on staff over in the office.
So when you think about like the last 10, 12 years and realizing that growth is extra extraordinary because this community has gone through some extraordinarily hard things like the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2022 tornado, 2025 ice storm, and people have described you as a calming presence in those moments. What does it actually look like to keep a foundation financially stable and mission driven while everything around you is in crisis?
Yeah, so the foundation in particular, it was really interesting. So, we had obviously the COVID pandemic starting in 2020. one of the first things the foundation did was came up with the COVID fund to do things in 2020 that were necessary. Protection type stuff, face masks, hand sanitizers, trying to get businesses grant funds available to offer their employees those things so that they could open, things of that nature. It was literally April of 2022 when the board voted to close that COVID fund. And then May of 2022 is when the tornado happened. So it was like deja vu, trying to respond to the ongoing needs of the community through what the foundation can do, one tragedy to the next. Literally within a month of closing out COVID, the tornado happened and it was ground zero all over again.
Yeah, in terms of the ice storm, the tornado, and all these other events, one of the foundation's jobs in the disaster is to move money fast. Obviously, emergency grants, immediate relief, but also to do it responsibly. How did you balance urgency with accountability in those situations?
Yeah, so we had a great team going on through all three of the events: COVID, tornado, and ice storm. The staff of the OCF really went above and beyond, coordinated with other nonprofit groups in the community to identify the immediate needs. And not to get too deep in the weeds, but that's one of the reasons why the foundation really needs funds for the community. So in a foundation, most funds are endowed for a specific purpose. And what we learned during COVID was we had limited access to funds that could be utilized for something that just popped up out of the blue, like COVID, because so much of the money is earmarked for very specific purposes. So that really set forth a movement for us to increase our unrestricted funds that could be used to meet the ongoing needs of the community, whatever those needs were when they aroused. So since that time, we've done a pretty good job of increasing those unrestricted funds that are now available for disasters when they happen. That was a big pivot, because historically, community foundations' job was to endow funds for specific purposes and then administer those funds year after year after year in the form of ongoing grants. But we were really kind of handicapped to be able to respond to the immediate needs because so much of the money was earmarked for very specific things.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a dynamic that a lot of people don't necessarily see from the outside. And another place you serve that's kind of behind the scenes would be on the Otsego County Road Commission Board. Most people's relationship with roads, I'd say, is pretty transactional. You drive on them and then you complain when they're bad. Sitting on the board, you get a view kind of from behind the scenes of the county's infrastructure that almost nobody else has. What's something that would genuinely surprise people if they knew it?
Yeah. So the road commission is a really interesting thing. So I'm in my second non-consecutive term with the road commission. So about 10 years ago, I was appointed by the Otsego County commissioners to fill a spot on the road commission, fulfilled that term, and then was off the board. And then just recently here, about a year ago, a spot became available, and I was asked if I would rejoin the commission, and that was approved by the county. So being on the road commission is really interesting because most people have absolutely no idea of how things actually work. So obviously we have state roads, we have MDOT funded roads, we have I-75 running through our community that's federally funded. The county road commission receives money from the state for all the other roads, all the local roads. Things like the neighborhood roads, Old Alba, Mansalona, Meridian Line, things like that. So, we get phone calls all the time complaining about the striping on M32 or Old 27. Well, for the most part, that has nothing to do with us. Though, those are MDOT. Or in the city of Gaylord, the city maintains their own roads. So it's really only the non-MDOT, non-federal, non-city roads that the road commission is responsible for. But just like everything else, our road infrastructure is not in great shape. A lot of these roads were built 50, 60 years ago. Funds have been limited over their lifetime. The roads have exceeded their original useful life and need significant work. There is extensive road ratings that go on. They're called PASER ratings, where we know that many of Otsego County roads are in poor condition. The problem is that money is limited. We receive most of our funding from the state of Michigan and have limited funds to do anything about it. First and foremost is snow plowing. That's kind of the primary thing that we do for 6 months out of the year. And then in the summer months, it's working with the townships to do cost shares with some of their road projects, or doing those more significant road projects that are identified years in advance and put on a schedule in terms of improvement or repaving type of things. There's a lot more that goes into it. For example, we have 2 new roundabouts coming here along McCoy Road. Those are both special grant funded. So that money is not coming out of our general budget. It's special grants that were applied for and received to do those types of improvements. So there's lots of different buckets of money that can only be used for specific things. And the road commission's job is to try and tie it all together and give the county residents access to safe, snow-cleared roads, so people can get where they need to go. It's a pretty thankless job, for the workers who work there. Everyone has an opinion, and usually those opinions are less than flattering. But I can honestly say that the road commission has some of the hardest workers that you'll ever find. Dedicated government workers who take their jobs very seriously, and it's doing the best it can with the funds available.
You've also been the Rotary Club treasurer for years and have served on the St. Mary Cathedral and School Financial Council. Between the CPA firm, the foundation, the road commission, the Rotary, and the parish and school, that's a lot of hats. How do you think about why all of it is worth your time?
Yeah, good question. So I mentioned, in college, I learned to never say no, to always try and help wherever needed, be involved wherever needed. And really, it's the same thing living in a small community. Everyone has time, treasures, or talents. Some people have all 3, some people have one of the 3. But it is so important for everyone to share their time, treasures, and talents in any way that they can. I don't have a lot of treasures, but I do have talents and I do have time. So I have really focused on giving back to the community in various ways with time and with talents to make everything a little bit better place for the next generation.
So thinking about something that I know is on a lot of young people's minds, it's been on my mind, is especially young people who grow up in small towns like Gaylord. There's a pull to go somewhere bigger, somewhere with more quote unquote opportunity. So you more or less, as we know, did the opposite. You chose to build your life here. What would you say to a young person who's weighing that choice right now?
Yeah, so everyone's different, right? So some people are happier in a bigger community, some people are happier in a smaller community. There is no right or wrong answer. There is a right answer for each individual person. So it's a matter of each person figuring out what it is that they want and then pursuing that. Big cities are great. I love to visit big cities. I just don't want to live in one personally. I like the smaller community feel. I like knowing people. To me, it fits me perfectly. But I fully get the excitement of a New York City, and I've had friends that after college went to work in Manhattan and just had incredible experiences and absolutely loved all their time there. It just wasn't for me. So there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no better, there's no worse. It's a question of what is right for each person. And then there are opportunities, no matter where you think you want to be, there's opportunities everywhere. So even in a small community, there are opportunities to have a fulfilling career, to be involved, to be a part of that community, to build that sense of community. So you can do that in a big city, you can do it in a small town, you can do it anywhere in between.
That's awesome. And in setting up shop in Gaylord, for your many accomplishments within our town, you received the Kevin Reynolds Achievement Award in 2023. And the story of how you found out about it in the school pickup line instead of your CPA office, like during tax season, has become part of somewhat of a local legend around you. What does that moment say to you about the kind of life you've tried to build?
It was great. It was very meaningful for me. I had worked with Kevin Reynolds back when I first moved to Gaylord. Kevin is a CPA. He was an early member on the foundation board. I was not expecting to be receiving that award, and I was literally in the Gaylord St. Mary pickup line to pick up kids when Dana and Amanda from the foundation were walking by holding a certificate. They were going to my office, my car wasn't there, and they were walking back to the OCF office and saw me sitting in the St. Mary pickup line. So that was a really cool moment for me. I was very honored to receive that. That's the benefit of being self-employed, is that you're able to pick your own schedule. I love taking kids to and from school. I'm a little bummed now that my oldest are driving and I'm no longer needed for my chauffeuring abilities as much as I used to be. It literally was the highlight of my day to get a few minutes of alone time with kids driving to and from school or to and from extracurriculars. But that was a really cool moment. And the fact that they found me in the school pickup line during my busiest time of year was just really cool. Because honestly, I would rather be in the school pickup line than at work most days, because that meant I got some one-on-one time with my kids.
So looking back at the work, the foundation, the commission, the firm, all of it, what do you hope the next generation of people who step into these roles inherit from the work you've done?
Yeah, so like anything else, I think, the message of the story is be involved, say yes, take a chance, give your time, treasures, and talents back to the community in some way, shape, or form. And when I say back to the community, it could look like many different things for different people. It may be mentoring a younger person in your career. It could be volunteering for a nonprofit. It could be being part of government, whether city council or DDA or something like that. There's lots of forms, lots of different ways to do it. But I would urge everyone to be involved, say yes to opportunities. You never know where something's going to lead. When I started my career, as a new CPA at a bigger firm, one of our career goals every year was to develop a personal network. That was literally a career goal that our raises and promotions and stuff were partially based upon. Your generation has it so much easier now because you have an entire contact list right in your phone. Your Instagram friends are your contact list, and you never know which contact that you make today is going to be useful to you in the future, in any number of ways, professionally, socially, you name it. So you guys, really are in a different world than what we were in 30 years ago. You have so many contacts at your disposal through social media that we literally had to build from a Rolodex. Getting to know people, getting those contacts, you never know when it's going to come back and be mutually beneficial.
James, it's been truly a privilege to sit down and talk with you. Before we let you go, we end every single episode with the same question.
You have spent over 2 decades quietly building the financial infrastructure that holds this community together. You showed up during the tornado. You showed up during the pandemic. You showed up during the ice storm. And then you went and picked up your kids at school.
So with all of that, what's one thing we could do today to wake up to a better world tomorrow?
Yeah, so everything you do, leave it better than the way you found it. Whether it's personal relationships, professional projects, or civic or charitable roles. Leave a mark so that when you go to bed at night, what you accomplished that day left those things better than they were the moment you woke up. If we all did that each and every day, I think we're looking at a much better place to be.
That is everything we could have asked for. James Camiller, everyone. Someone who has spent his career making sure the foundation is solid so that everyone else can build on top of it. Thank you for what you do, and truly thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
If this conversation moved you today, please share it with someone in your community, a neighbor, a parent, a young person trying to figure out where they belong. These stories deserve to be heard. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Inheriting the Future Podcast and wherever you listen to your favorite shows. We are Inheriting the Future, and we'll see you next time.